Welcome to Open Minds. In the studio today we have Fiona and Patricia. And Mark. Patricia is an expert in dreams and premonitions, which is our subject for today. So my opening question is, as usual, very general one. What exactly are dreams?
Well, it is exactly what I've said on the book cover. It's a premonition of an event, a happening that's going to happen in the future. Now, that could be quite some years or it could be immediate. In my case, it was a preparation, a warning, if you will, to prepare me for this huge, tragic event that happened in my life at 18. And I dreamt it before.
You're saying that all dreams...
In my case, it has been very much a protection,
Right.
A warning. The dreams usually are foreboding. Yeah. It's definitely, with me in particular, it's definitely a protection. It's an awareness. It's very acutely detailed. It's like a film. There's nothing ever blurry or in any of these dream premonitions that I've had about people or events that have happened. It's crystal clear.
We'll come back to those in probably more detail later, but what do other people think about, what exactly are dreams from your perspective?
I mean, I find that dreams kind of fall into two categories. You have that dream about, the stuff that's gone on possibly in the day, that day, so it's just like your brain kind of processing stuff. But then you do have, possibly like Fiona's just said, the big dreams, which are, kind of quite epic, with a lot of activity. And sometimes, yes, you find that there's aspects of that dream which at some point in the future seem to come to light. So I suppose, day-to-day dreams, definitely, where you are literally just doing the stuff during the day, you're doing it in your dreams. But I have had what I would call a big dream.
Big, significant dreams.
Yeah, big, significant dreams, kind of in big cities, lots of things going on, almost like, a little bit like a movie.
And you write these down?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say I keep a regular dream diary or a dream journal, but I do, if I have a dream that I feel that's really unusual, then I'll make a few notes. I'll have a little pad at the side of the bed. Just because usually if you go back to sleep again and then wake up, you forget it.
Yeah.
Fiona, what's your take on this?
Well, it's. I think yes, there is certainly a degree of sorting out the mental cupboards and processing what's happened during the day. But I think a lot of problem solving goes on during sleep and dreams. My book arrived as a dream, which, I started writing the very next day.
Your most recent
This
book?
is, no, it was written 3 years ago now. It's called The Last Changeling. And it was just a dream, and it was only a very short dream. But within that, I knew who the main character was and what was going on straight away. It just arrived wholesale with a tiny piece of dialogue. Chunk heads, I hate them. So then I had to figure out what chunk heads were. And from there, this book grew. But I also think, yes, there's elements of premonition in there. I've certainly had premonition. I believe I have been visited by people who have just died in dreams. I was a very, very vivid dream one night of a man shaking me. It was the weirdest thing ever. What did you think of Stanley Baker? Stanley Baker, but this person was desperate, and he was a real presence in the dream, shaking me. What did you think? And this person was so desperate. And in the end, I told this person, well, I'm not into his stuff. And I found out he'd died that night. The actor, who was one of the leads in lots of British movies, particularly Zulu, he's probably the best known for. Why he would visit me in my dream, I do not know. And a few years later, someone else who had died again that night came and wanted me to know that they were dead, but they didn't come as a recognisable person. So I was left puzzling, and I told a few friends.
We'll come back to these stories later, but I just want to stay in this whole area of definition for a moment. What do we think triggers dreams?
Well, it's REM sleep, isn't it? It happens during rapid eye movement sleep.
Right, okay.
It's a particular phase, allegedly, we sort of go into a diving board. We have a very, very deep sleep cycle. And it's as we come back up again, that's when all the dreams happen. Now, I have no way of knowing. It's a bit like everybody's individual thoughts on what colours are. It's so personal, you know. So how they measure it, I have no idea. But
so that's a scientific explanation. You go with that, Mark?
Well, at the end, that's like kind of, we know that someone is dreaming usually because their eyes are actually following whatever the activity is, and that's now called rapid,
you know, if they're
eye movement.
wired up,
and there's certain brain activity as well that goes alongside dreaming.
The unusual part is that allegedly we dream every night.
Yes.
But we don't remember every single dream every night throughout the life journey. It's only certain ones, particular ones. So it's a little bit more complex, isn't it?
So why stay with that, Patricia. Why do we remember certain dreams and not other dreams?
It's supposed to be when we're woken up, isn't it? In a particular part of the cycle. That's what I've heard.
You see, relating to the dream that I've referred to when I was 4.5 years of age, living at West Derby Road with my wonderful philanthropic grandmother, Sarah, this dream returned to me for 2-3 weeks. The feeling during daytime hours. And the fear and the feeling kept coming back and coming back. The process, I believe, was so that I would retain it. I would recall it. I had to recall it because it was going to happen 13.5 years later when I was 18.5 years of age.
I'm going to have to ask you now. What happened exactly?
Well, it's about a great, outstanding son of Liverpool, Stuart Duncan Howard. He was a champion racing driver, and they lived on Queen's Drive, and they moved from one end of Queen's Drive to Chilwell Five Ways. And everything, just before they moved to the house in April 1968, everything was going wrong. Brian Epstein lived next door of all people. They subsequently found out that the house had tombstones at the back of all of these marble fireplaces. For me, that was telling Mrs. Howard, Mrs. Olive Howard, and her husband Joe Howard, who ran an export business, import and export, at the Pier Head on Derby Road, not to go there. But she pursued it in this mansion, double-fronted house on 195.
This was all in your dream, right?
This was the house I dreamt about at 4.5.
Yeah.
The feeling I had about this house where I could see myself standing on this very elegant landing area, of which I didn't know it was 195 Queen's Drive. I was 4.5 years of age. The dream came back through the daytime for many weeks, so I would retain it. And it was acute fear and terror whenever these thoughts of the dream I had would return during the daytime. I only dreamt it once, but it kept coming back for weeks later. And then it happened when I was 18.5. And it was at the funeral on the 21st of June, 1968, on that funeral Friday, of the late, great Stuart Duncan Howard, champion racing driver.
And he died in the house?
He was killed at Oulton Park Racetrack on the 15th of June, 1968. They named a race after him.
And were you close to him?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that was the tragedy.
I'd actually met him twice, indirectly, before I actually spoke to him on the third time. It kept happening. And so the third time I met him, the mystical three, that was it.
Well, it sounds like a nightmare to me, that. So that brings me to my next question. What is the difference between a dream, a good dream, because we do have some good dreams or some kind of neutral dreams even, sort of informational kind of dreams. What's the difference perhaps between that and a nightmare in causal terms? Causal?
Well, there's the old wives' tales about eating cheese before you sleep and all this kind of nonsense, but there's degrees of nightmares, because you can have anxiety dreams, particularly if something's preying on your mind. You'll find yourself going over and over the same actions to no avail, and these feelings of helplessness. But the real night terrors, the really terrifying ones, generally, the people I've spoken to about them, it seems to be you are subject to the malice of some other force. It's almost like there's something else out there to get you, be it baddies chasing you, monsters under the bed, whatever. It feels like there's something external coming in. Now, whether that's kind of some mental projection, I don't know. I had, generally my dreams, thankfully, are very, very light and friendly, and I have a very good time in them. But I've had a couple of really nasty nightmares when I've felt particularly helpless. And I think that generally will simply be mirroring something going on in your own life, and you get to a point where you almost have to do something about it. And I think it's part of your subconscious going, right, no, this has got to stop.
Your emotional rationale in dreams seems to be switched off.
Yes.
So even, innocuous things that probably wouldn't give you a terror in waking life, in a dream really kind of can send you into, an absolute frenzy.
I think that's because the subconscious deals in symbols
Yeah.
rather than anything else, and certain symbols. I mean, this is where, dare I say, dream dictionaries I don't think work.
No, I don't.
I don't think you can look up and go, oh, a red bus means this. Somebody in, say, the Mongolian sort of, the desert or wherever is not going to look at a red bus in a dream and think, oh, I'll look at my dream dictionary. It's going to mean the same things it will to somebody living in London. It can't do. But I think we have archetypes, and I think, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Well, we're going now to our commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about lucid dreaming, the whole area of lucid dreaming. So join us after the break for Open Minds, where we're talking about dreams and premonitions. Welcome back to Open Minds, where we're talking about dreams and premonitions and sleep states and all things akin to that. So in this section, we're going to be talking about lucidity in dreaming. And we've been chatting in the break a bit about that, and I got that wrong. I thought lucid dreaming, when you talk about lucid dreaming, you were talking about how clear things were in dreams, but apparently not, Mark. You're telling me it's something else.
No. A lucid dream is usually a dream that some part way through the dream you suddenly become aware, hey, hang on a minute, something's happened, this is a dream. This can't possibly have happened, I must be dreaming. And then people who are adept in lucid dreaming are able to continue in the dream with total awareness that they are dreaming, and therefore they can manipulate the dream characters or the outcome of a dream, or explore the dream environment, fly and all sorts of things.
Very
it is, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys do that? Patricia, did you do that?
I can't really remember having that kind of dream now.
I've only
Not
done
right
it a
now.
couple of times.
I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah. But the couple of times I have done it, I've thought, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
You literally are God. You can make anything happen. But I get sent a lot of really fabulous music, fully orchestrated classical music, and it's so beautiful.
In your dreams?
In my dreams.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, I really need to pursue this. And I started pursuing. The music was trying to retreat from me, but I remember very, very strongly thinking, yeah, okay, I'm going to sit here and let it sort of come back and wash over me again, and not try to remember. Part of that was thinking, right, I'm pushing this away because I'm trying to remember it. Right, if I stop doing that, I can just enjoy it.
That's interesting. Do you think composers, some of our great
absolutely.
composers like Mozart
Absolutely.
and contemporary...
In fact, haven't they said as such? I'm sure, was it
receiving things in
Mozart
dreams.
or was it Beethoven? One of the biggies
Yeah.
actually said that he dreamt, and loads and loads of musicians have said they've dreamt music.
And we were talking about scientists as well.
Yes.
The guy who invented or discovered the benzene ring, he had a dream of a snake eating its tail,
Haribo
and as a result of that, he realised a certain compound formula was actually a ring. The atoms
And I was
had
saying
arranged.
before about the guy with the sewing machine. So you think of a sewing needle, the eyes at one end, the pointers at the other. And for years that dumbfounded people trying to figure out a sewing machine, until this guy had a dream that he was being pursued by flesh-eating cannibals, and they had these spears, and the spear had a hole just at the top of the point, and he thought, that's how you do it.
I've had the experience where I've been dreaming and have woken up and thought that was a nice dream, and semi-consciously, because you're in a waking up state, of thought, oh, I'd like to get back into that again, and have done.
And you can do.
And I've gone
Yeah.
back to sleep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Patricia, again, have you? You had that experience?
I think that's happened to me, yeah.
I think
on
you
a
have
few
to be
occasions.
at a certain level, though.
Yeah.
I think if you wake up a little bit more, you can't really do it. And what often finds, I don't know if you found that you'll go back in, you'll continue that dream, but it won't continue for very long because then it'll morph into something else. And that's happened to me quite a lot, you know.
So, Patricia, you know, from your expertise around this area, you know, what's the point of that? I understand what you're saying about, you know, the point of dreams giving us advance warning of events, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that happens or why. Maybe we'll look at that a bit in a few moments. But
well, it's another form of clairvoyance.
It's another. The whole thing is another form of clairvoyance.
No, when you have a dream premonition, and it happens further down the road. But when you actually are aware that you're having this lovely dream, to me, it's a meditative state of mind. It's a relaxant. It is to create balance within the body, mind, and soul. Because if you are stressed out, and you go to bed and you say you're very anxious and you are somewhat depressed, and you're able to have a fantastic dream, that will carry through the next day, if you're lucky, the following day, if you can remember it, if it comes back. So it is a form of meditation. It's a healing form of meditation when you have a dream like that.
Carl Jung said, because he did a lot of work with dreams and dream archetypes, he said if you get into the habit of writing your dreams down in a dream journal, that in time you will start to see, if you start to reflect back on your dream journal, you will start to see dreams coming true, premonitions of the dreams, if you reflect back on them. He said if you take the time to record the dreams, you will start to see. And he said that everybody dreams that way. It's just that most people, like you said, just don't remember the dreams.
You see, the thing is with me as well, people can't understand it at all. There's my Irish coming out a bit there. I'm so precise, and I have a photographic memory, especially for dates. So I have absolute clarity of what I've dreamed, and especially when it comes back during the daytime hours, as was the case. But more recently, in 2011, my mother, my late mother, Lillian, I had been experiencing a presence in this lovely rented flat. I didn't own it, by Lord's Cricket Ground in St John's Wood Road. And I'd seen this visitation out the corner of my eye whilst I was coming in the front door, and I thought I saw something. No. The next day I looked again and I saw this youngish guy with dark hair. However, about a month before my mother died, it was about 4:45 in the morning, and it was a sort of like a twilight zone, just that magic time, as they call it in California, I believe, the twilight zone. It's neither dark, it's neither light, and there's a special kind of energy. And so it's 4:45 in the morning, and I thought my husband had got up early, being a good Swede, he's up usually very bright and early. And I said, Peter, for God's sake, because I had married Peter number 1 and Peter number 2, just to clarify that one's dead, one's alive. And he was walking through the door, and I said, Peter, what are you doing with the coffee? I don't want coffee now. And as this man walked towards the side of the bed, it looked like a tray, and he had jet black hair. Peter was a blonde, but he's got little hair now. And he stood at the side of the bed, and he said to me, and this is your top hat. And I woke up and I said, I don't want any coffee. I don't want anything to eat right now.
So was that...
And the meaning was that my mother was going to die, and I'd have to wear the top hat as usual. I'd have to be in control, and here I go again.
And so was that a dream, or was that a vision?
That's the question. I would say, because I was half asleep and half awake, because it was a kind of twilight.
That's what's happened
to
me twice, yes.
I never saw that visitation of that bloke again in the flat, and that was the third time, and he actually came in and spoke to me.
If some kind of veil is thin, or if, you know, if the mind's reaching out, you just don't know.
It's an interesting thing, because there's when you're falling asleep and when you're just waking up, it's hypnagogic imagery that you get when you're falling asleep. So you get that kind of swirl of patterns and faces and sometimes voices as you're falling asleep. And the same thing happens as you're waking up. And they say that that is, you know, a really valuable time, that things will come to us. And I don't know, maybe that's the time when you have the premonitions.
There's another warning. But I'd seen him twice before he actually appeared. It was a preparation. Like all the dreams I've ever had, and some of them, they've been very nice dreams, and it's helped me because I've been sort of calm, I've been very relaxed and able to deal with huge situations of anxiety and stress.
I'm interested in you know, you've obviously have some expertise in dreaming and you've written about it, Patricia.
Spirituality as well, and I get feelings about people.
Do you interpret other people's dreams?
Sometimes I have been known to do that. Because, again, I get an energy, I connect with that, and usually the channel is open over the right shoulder, and I will say, it isn't actually me saying it, it's advice I'm being given, and I will relay it to that person.
What do you think about dream interpretation?
We were saying this before we started filming. I personally, I don't think you can, you know, you can't have archetypal things that mean, you know, certain things, because there are so many people on the planet of which things mean different things to different people.
Just last night, a chap was telling me about a friend of his who had a dream that, and it distressed him, and he was getting it quite regularly, and he had a lot of pet rabbits, and he'd neglected them, and it was in the dream, and it was distressing him. And my first thought was, I said, is this chap subject to depression? He was. And I felt that the rabbits were aspects of himself and that he was neglecting himself. And the next thing I asked was, is he the type of chap to put everyone else first? And the answer came back, yes. I said, well, my strong suspicion is this is some part of his psychology going, hang on, what about us? You know, what about this part of my aspect of my personality? What about But
you couldn't then say that rabbits in every dream meant the same thing.
Which is why, as I said before, I don't believe in dream dictionaries. Because his rabbits were very, very different to anyone else's rabbits. You know.
So Mark, you know, you're you know, about to qualify as a counsellor in the near distant future. And if somebody came to you and said, you know, I'm having this dream, can you help me with it? You'd have to say, what would you say?
Well, I mean, you can explore an individual's dream, and you can find out what is going on, you know, kind of in their life, and whether or not there's any kind of parallel, any correlation to what they're dreaming about. I think the thing that we're kind of saying is you can't standardise. You can't standardise dreams. You can't. I mean, you can buy a dream dictionary, and it says if you dream about a glass of wine, for example, this is going to happen, or it means that. That's the side of dreaming which I would struggle with.
You've got an alcoholic dreaming about a glass of wine.
It would mean something totally different than somebody who's teetotal.
As opposed to a child. Exactly. It can't mean the same thing. No. It could mean temptation to one person. It could mean medicine or something horrible to somebody else. It could represent a lovely holiday to somebody else.
Well, that's interesting. We come to the natural end of our second part. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about premonitions, and that's when I want to hear the stories. So come back for part 3, where we're talking about premonitions. Welcome back to Open Minds, where we're discussing today dreams and premonitions, and that's what I want to do in this part, in this section, talk about premonitions. Let's just cut to the chase, really. I've got some notes here which are given to me by the producer because I'm not an expert in all things, so I need some prompts. He's written down here something about somebody called David Mandel's psychic paintings. This is a guy who claims to have dreamt events that then, you know, significant world events that then happened, like the murders, the sad and tragic murder of the children at Dunblane, the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers, and the sarin attacks in Tokyo. What have we made of that?
He dreamt about the Concorde crash as well.
Yeah.
He painted a picture. Yeah. I think it's him anyway.
He then paints a picture, does he?
Well, I think I'm not too sure we're talking about the same thing.
Abstract painting. Are they all abstract?
No, I mean I've seen the Concorde one. That is like kind of pretty much you know, kind of what happens. Yeah.
But I mean, loads of people I heard dreamt of John Lennon's assassination before it
Really?
happened.
He
And
himself always had the premonition
Yeah.
that he was going to be shot
yeah,
Well,
from a crowd.
the ballad of John and Yoko,
Yeah.
you know, Christ, you know it ain't easy.
yeah.
You know how hard it can be.
Yeah,
The way things are going, they're going to crucify me. You know,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so did George Harrison, acutely more so, from what I've read.
I had a very
Of course,
strange.
he died a natural death.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no,
so-
actually,
He was
he
attacked,
didn't.
wasn't he? They
He was
tried to stab him.
Yes.
he was
Crazy.
actually robbed. A burglar got into his mansion at Tunbridge Wells, and he was never really the same after that.
No.
He was much more paranoid about it all,
Which you would
and
expect, really.
he was always expecting to be murdered as well.
And he had dreams about that?
He had feelings about
Yeah.
it. I couldn't swear that it was dreams, but what I remember reading about this house, and this Liverpudlian went down there, broke into the house, which was virtually like Fort Knox. You couldn't get into the darn place, but this guy got in, and he was schizophrenic. I think he's still in a mental institution, and his wife Olivier, he was protecting her. And I think he had
Didn't she
something.
protect him? I thought she.
Well,
fought-
maybe.
We're kind of getting
He
away
had a-
from the dream
yeah.
thing now. I mean, it's all
But
always interesting.
He
the
always had
Beatles
this
and-
premonition,
Yeah.
and it did, and I think that's what I've read. It killed him off
I
with the
had
fear.
a dream. A friend's husband was working in it. Well, he was manager of a clothing factory in Birkenhead, which closed down. And the family were really worried. They weren't the kind of people who knew how to deal with benefits. He was just really freaked out. What do we do now? And I had a dream, and I reported to his wife, he's going to get a job in Hungary. And she said, Hungary? I don't even think they've got a clothing industry to speak of in Hungary. I said, oh, yes. And she said, that's weird. And I said, and further to this, you've got to get in touch with, he'd signed on with an agency, you've got to get in touch with them now because the job's there. Well, as it happened, she was saying, oh, no, come on, you know, they'll ring us. We're not going to bother them. 3 days later, she still hadn't rung, and I eventually bullied her into ringing. And they'd taken the details down wrong, and they'd been trying to ring him, and there was indeed a job. But the job was in Seoul. No, it wasn't, sorry, Laos, which is just south of Vietnam. And it was working for Diesel, and they were going to build a second factory out there. And he was going to be manager of this second factory. And I said, I'm sure it was Hungary. It was Hungary in my dream. No, it's Laos. She said, look, you've got the rest of it right. Be happy. I said, no, it's Hungary. And she said, it's Diesel. I always remember to the day these words. She said, but it's Diesel. What on earth is going to happen? And the Twin Towers happened. I had no dream about that. It was nothing to do with me. It didn't impinge on my life. The Twin Towers happened. Diesel pulled out of building the second factory. Within 3 days, he was on a plane to Hungary.
Amazing.
Which is where he ended up.
Amazing.
But it's weird if you start thinking about timelines and what had to happen for that man to be on that plane and go to Hungary. That's when it gets very weird.
My question is, you know, people are having these predictive kind of dreams, because that's what they are, these premonitions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And some of them are, you know, that was very significant for
Wasn't
that
it?
guy.
Yeah.
But this guy, David Mandel, he's
He gets world ones.
he
the
gets
bigger
world
picture. Yeah.
world dreams of, you know, major significance, political significance. Where's that information coming from?
I think it's coming. I do. I've said this, I think, on this programme about certain events send ripples
Yeah.
forwards into the future, but also because they're so big, back into time as well.
Yeah,
and I
but
think
I
certain
don't
people
think
pick up on that.
Time is linear.
Well, no, and I don't even think dreams. I don't even think dreams are in time either.
Yeah.
No.
Just because our lives have a beginning, a middle, and an end. This program has a beginning, middle, and an end. This is the way we are programmed. This is the way we've evolved to look at time. I think time is a very tricksy thing, and I think if the physicists are correct and everything is happening at once, then it's an illusion to think something's in the future and something else in the past.
So, yeah, I mean, any number of people could be having these big dreams,
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
they're maybe not reporting them.
Well, no, they're not. And also, what I've found is if I have a very disturbed or just a weird, quirky dream, we often do. It's not a nightmare, but it's like, what was all that about? I'll ask my friends, and they've all had a similar experience the same night. So that I think is very strange. So I don't know
what's
what's
telekinetic element
well.
to
It's
that.
I think it's the Jungian group consciousness. That's
Right,
what I think's going on there. You know.
So Patricia, I know because we were talking earlier, and you were saying, I mean, you have a belief in angels. Is that right? Angelic beings.
Yes.
Do you think they carry information to us?
Oh, without doubt, without doubt. Just speaking on the dreams, I saw the rerun. I don't know how many times I've seen the Titanic, but how many people? There was one person in particular who was a nanny to this American family, and she'd had this dream about seeing children floating in the ocean, and then she ends up a few days later on the Titanic. Indeed, there are other people who had.
And she survived to tell the tale.
Yes, I think she did.
There's Ralph T. Stead, a very famous chap on the Titanic, who actually wrote a book about a ship sinking.
Yes.
I think he called it the Titan, and he used to doodle ship sinking, and of course he drowned. He went down on the Titanic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's an awful lot to be said for dream premonitions. I say again, it is a protection, it is an awareness, but you have to have people to connect with that awareness, to want to believe it, to want to be protected. If they don't, well, then the inevitable, the warning in that dream will happen. But it could be averted.
There's been, I mean, this is a cynic in me. I've never heard of a story where someone's had a dream and they've warned whoever or whatever, and they've averted, as a result of their premonition in their dream, some major disaster. People only seem to say after the event, oh God, I dreamt about that.
Yes.
You know, which...
I know what you're saying, but speaking for myself, it did prepare me. All these dreams are meant to prepare you, protect you. The ones I know of other people who've had this. I mean, I had a reoccurring dream of a black cat, and this black cat was always clung onto my shoulder. I think I must have been about 12, 13 years of age, and it went on, this reoccurring dream. I now know why, because there was so much treachery in my family against me, and the fact that I lived with my grandmother, my grandmother's other children resented the fact and did so much to my demise. Because
so the
I
cat was protecting you?
No. A black cat clung onto my shoulder is not a good thing. No. And it took years for that to evolve.
Interpretation.
I mean, I was going to say,
yes.
if black cats get a
Oh
bad
yeah,
rap,
but,
you know,
but not when it's clung onto you, onto your back,
so for
in
you,
relation
it was a
to the
symbol,
body.
It was a symbol of...
Yeah, and it was, I was having this dream all the time. And then when things started to unfold within the family, things really came to the surface. I never had that dream ever again.
So what's the difference? You know, help me here. You know, what's the difference between precognition and premonition?
Well, precognition is knowing something before it happens.
Right, okay.
Premonitions, I understood, was seeing it. It's very much the same thing.
It is the same thing.
Is to know.
Seeing it.
Yeah. And the monition bit is to see it.
So
but
can you have both working together?
Well, I don't see why. Well, I think you'd have
It's
to.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But premonitions, I don't think people take as much notice as they do of a precognition, because the precog suggests you absolutely know it, that it's going to happen. But imagine if tomorrow you had a fantastic dream tomorrow night, or a horrible dream.
Could I just
interject?
something? You can't always do that, because when I had the dream at 4.5, I couldn't object to that because I wasn't aware of it.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not always applicable. It depends on your age, and as you know.
You were aware it was important.
Well, no, I was just petrified.
Really? Oh, right. Okay.
No, I was just petrified. I didn't understand it.
There's a difference between knowing something, isn't there, and understanding it.
Yes. Yeah. I
So
think
as a child, as a young child,
Yes,
you
I
would
was
have known
4,
this
but
was
you
a
wouldn't have
serious thing. You
understood
know
it.
it was important, but you wouldn't necessarily have
No,
understood
I
it
didn't.
fully.
I was just very fearful, and I just wanted, because it came back during the daytime for many weeks. And I can remember I was playing with my 2 chums, Jimmy and David Jones, and in Levant Street, West Derby Road, Liverpool 6. And it was there outside Mrs. Kenley's little mini market. And it came back, and this feeling, this coldness, this fear, this terror. And it came over many weeks, and every time it would return, and I just wanted to block it out. I didn't want to be reminded.
You didn't know, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
No, that's
you
what I'm
didn't
saying.
know.
What
It was only when the
Only
events
the
actually
fear.
happened 13 years
Yeah,
later.
the fear. I was afraid of it. I did know the fear. I did know the terror. I didn't like the feeling.
But you weren't able. What I'm saying is, you weren't able to say, "Hey,
This
this is going to happen."
Yes.
No, of course, that's what I'm saying.
You just had a dream.
I was
that
only
had
4.
A big effect
It was
on
the
you.
feeling.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. But I just didn't dream it. It returned during the daytime. This visualization and this feeling that I had whilst I was standing in the dream, the feeling came back during daytime hours for many weeks. It was meant for me to retain it.
Patricia, it's fascinating, but I'm going to have to stop you there because we're coming to the end of part 3. We're going to our commercial break. When we come back for the last section, I want to talk about the power of dreams to solve problems in our lives. So come back and join us after the break. Welcome back to Open Minds for the final parts. We're talking about dreams and premonitions today, and I want to ask the question: can we solve problems through our dream life?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you get out of your own way in dreams, and the pure subconscious comes through. And I think once you're out of your own way and you're not sort of...
What do you mean, out of your own way?
Well,
what does that mean?
All the ifs and buts vanish, don't they? Right. Logic, that wonderful word logic, it just goes out of the window in dreams. And in comes this pure thought form that goes, right, okay, you've got a problem, here's the solution. Hence the benzene ring, hence the sewing machine, and countless pieces of music.
So you're saying these things were invented in dreams, are you?
Yes,
yeah.
the solutions.
The answers came to people in dreams.
And people, it's the classic thing. You go to sleep on a problem, and how many people wake up and go, right, that's the answer, that's what I'm going to do.
I think a lot of science behind dreams suggests that is what dreaming is that we're presented with a day full of data, and then throughout the night the brain is sifting through it, solving the problems. And also I've heard as well that sometimes dreams are the brain's way of rehearsing certain situations, and that's where the dreaming animal that we are, it was as a result of possibly dreaming certain dangerous situations, so we could rehearse them as to what we would do in that situation. I mean, I don't know how true that is.
You're contradicting yourself a little bit, may I say to you?
That's okay.
Because we're generalising now, and we can't really generalise because we don't really know. And there's so many different types of dreams, there are so many different types of premonitions, and whomever is aware of that dream or the premonition or precognitive dream, so we're contradicting ourselves. We're saying generalisation.
It's just that was a theory that I think some scientists have actually come up with as to why we dream. I wasn't actually saying.
I'm not so sure about scientists.
Well, you look at people who are sleep deprived, be it used as a method of torture, or whether you're a new parent. Any new parent will tell you it's hell.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah,
I do remember
and sleep is such an essential part. And yet, I was saying before, in a sort of a Darwin-esque world, it seems such a crazy thing to have to do, to render yourself so helpless for so many hours. That just seems absolutely counterintuitive. But it seems that our brains need it. And even if people are torturing people, they'll still get micro sleeps. People will get into a car sleep deprived and they micro sleep.
The body definitely needs to have that peaceful state, hopefully peaceful state.
But the body will grab sleep.
The thing is, what's also interesting is they have actually not deprived people of sleep, but they've deprived people of the dreaming part of the sleep.
Woken them up.
So every time
have they done that?
Every time they see the eyes moving, the rapid eye movements, they've woke them up. And they say that has a far worse effect.
As a form of torture.
But I'm not. No, and I think it was research. I don't think it was actual torture. But what they're saying is it's had a worse effect on people if you deprive them of the dreaming aspect of their sleep.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I remember that.
And if you look at people, some people just need, what, 4 or 5 hours allegedly of sleep, whilst other people need at least 7, 8 hours sleep. You know?
I
It's
sleep at different times.
Yeah.
You know,
different times of
I can
sleeping.
be awake quite late into the night, and then I might sleep in the early evening. And
Yeah.
I used to
seem
worry about that,
yeah.
but
No,
I
I
don't.
think you just take it as you need it.
You don't,
Or
you
a
say you
cat
don't
nap.
actually need a block of, say, 7 or 8 hours. You can actually sleep for 3 hours, wake. And
even
then
a cat nap.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you could have a dream as soon. It doesn't
naps, yeah.
necessarily mean at night.
And can you sort of, I mean, I don't know, those of you who kind of like, you know, I'm thinking of Patricia really, as I'm coming to you always as the expert in this. But do you think you can, right, do you ever think to yourself, I'm going to go to sleep now, I'd really like to dream?
No, I haven't done that. No.
I'd like to have a dream.
Unless I'm very stressed and I can dream whilst awake, get myself into a certain mindset, if you will, of certain memories of certain people or certain things that have happened, to sort of chill out, as it were, to just relax and just to meditate and just to block out whatever else is ailing me or plaguing me or whatever I've got to deal with. So I can do that, yes.
It's an interesting thing where we always say, if there's a problem, let's sleep on it.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder whether or not that whole idea of...
Makes me wonder about people who take siestas as well, other nationalities, when it's too hot and they'll sleep during the day and then sleep later at night. You know, what happens to their sleep routine when they have like a block during the day and a block later on? That's quite interesting.
Well, they're now saying it's incredibly healthy to have
that little nap.
20-minute
That's right.
power nap, as they now call it.
It's kind of encouraged in some industries, isn't it?
What I found now is I always admired Hannibal and Napoleon, because the two things they could do is go to sleep at will, no matter how freaked out they were by oncoming battles or whatever. And then I learnt the trick of how to do it. And now I can go to sleep when I want to. And it's just been brilliant. And it's just breathing techniques, that's all it is. And I can't believe it. And I find that when I go to sleep that relaxed...
Kind of like mindfulness or something.
No, it's far easier than that. You breathe in for 7, you hold for 5, you breathe out for 8. You will not be able to do that more than 10 times before you're asleep. I guarantee it.
To our audience, you've heard it here. You've heard it. Try it out.
Yeah, it works.
And
really works.
Email us and let us know. Okay, now for the last 5 minutes or so, just want to, it's a big question this, and it maybe is a lead into another programme, I don't know, but is it all a dream? Are we kind of living in a dream?
Well, that's been a real philosophical question that has been like kind of chewed over the, you know, kind of the millennia, as to whether or not, you know, this is actually, you know,
what's the nature
a dream.
Of reality? You know, 2 people go to London, one expects it to be full of rip-off merchants, have a horrible time, be dirty and filthy. Somebody else goes to London expecting to see the sights, have a wonderful time, really enjoy it. They both have exactly what they expect, but they've both gone to London. What's the real London? You know, everything is filtered through our perceptions. It may as well be a dream.
Okay, Patricia, to come to you, do you think we're living in a...
This is actually happening now. This is not a dream. We dream at night or we dream when we sleep, whatever time of the day it is.
So
but this is
that's
actually
clear for you?
Yes, everything has to be very clear.
How do you know? I'm just trying to say, how do you know that this now isn't a dream?
Well, because I'm speaking, I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, all my senses are working.
But all those things could happen in a dream.
Yes.
No, at sleep, you're actually, you know when you go to bed, you know when you're trying to sleep on the sofa in the middle of the day or whatever it is, on a beach, you know. Just as we know now, we're wide awake.
What about layers of sort of consciousness, if you like? This is my kind of picture.
We don't eat in a dream, do we? And we don't drink, and we don't get drunk.
Yes, you can.
In a dream?
Yes.
Not physically, I mean.
Yes. Well, I've
never dreamt
and eaten and has broken it in a dream and woken up going, I shouldn't have eaten that chocolate cake.
Woken up.
I would slightly disagree there. I think there are dreams. I mean, there's a thing called false awakening, where you wake up, you switch the alarm clock off, you get up, you do your morning routine, you're cleaning your teeth, the whole lot, everything, and to all intents and purposes, you're doing those things. Then something happens, and you realise, oh my God, I'm dreaming. But to all intents and purposes, you were fooled by the dream
Yeah.
into thinking that you had actually woken up. And I know of people who've had these false awakenings where they've then gone back to sleep, and the same thing has happened. And it's happened to them, you know, kind of 3-4 times where
It's
they
like
thought
sleepwalkers, isn't it? What about that aspect of it? People that sleepwalk and they're coming out and they're driving, but they're not actually seeing, and they crash into trees and what have you. You know, so you know when you're awake and you know when you're asleep.
I have to disagree with you there. I would
Yeah,
really
you
have
are.
to disagree with
One chap
you.
murdered his wife and he actually got off,
Yeah.
didn't he?
I was
on
asleep.
the defence was that he was asleep.
I mean, people have got off with some quite serious crimes.
Yeah.
We won't actually, I think it's good to give examples necessarily, but they have,
Yeah.
because they've been
They've
sleepwalking.
been sleepwalking, yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that sometimes there's absolutely no signs that you are dreaming, because the dream can be so vivid, so clear,
Well,
and
the
so
sign is
like
when you wake
waking
up.
life.
The
Well, we
sign
talk
is
about-
when you wake up.
So we talk
How
about
do
And you
know
think,
you're
oh
not gonna
gosh, I was awake. But no, I wasn't. I was asleep.
But you may in
While
5
you're
minutes wake
dreaming
up
it-
from this now.
Oh, no, I'm wide awake now. Wide awake. No.
So we talk about waking dreams, don't
That's
we?
a theory.
Yes.
No.
Dreams that we have when we're awake. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
To me, a waking dream is almost like such a deep reverie, you may as well be asleep. When something would take hold and you're really... How often have you been driving somewhere and you fall into... And suddenly you realise, oh my God, you know, I'm 5 miles down the road and you haven't seen the traffic go by. You've been in an alpha
that's not
state.
absent-mindedness, just simple absent-mindedness.
No, it's because you've been taken away by a dream. And someone will call your name and it's suddenly you almost wake up and you think, oh right, didn't see you there. You know, so you
Well,
walk down the
we've
street.
come to the end of our programme, and a special thanks to all of you who've come on to the programme today, and special
very
thanks,
much.
particular thanks to
Pleasure to be here.
Patricia. And you've
Thank
got
you
your
so
book
much.
there?
Yes, Dream Premonition and a Life Less Ordinary.
Okay, hold it up to the camera so people can see. They probably can't see it at all. But get hold of...
on Amazon.com.
We're going to have to go now. It's the end of the programme, and see you next time for Open Minds.